Hey there, HorseCenter fans. Matt and I are back with another exciting edition of the show. Matt, we are getting hardcore on the Kentucky Derby Trail this week.
We are for sure, Brian. We got three official Kentucky Derby preps and another race at Gulfstream Park with a big player in it.
Yeah, don't sell that other race at Gulfstream Park short, folks. We're talking Kentucky Derby in a lot of different ways. We'll have a little Pegasus banter right now here on HorseCenter. Welcome to another edition of HorseCenter, everyone. I am Brian Zipsy, and as always, I have the excellent pleasure of being joined by my co-host to the East Coast. That's Matt Schiffman. How are you today, Matt?
I am good, Brian. We got February 1st coming up on Saturday, and you know what that means.
Well, it's the first Saturday of February, Matt. It's not the first Saturday of May, but the first Saturday of February brings us Kentucky Derby preps. There's 3 points races, Matt, and I might like the other race, the one that's not a points race the most. So without further ado, let's jump on down to South Florida, Gulfstream Park. They had the Pegasus last year, but if you're a Kentucky Derby fan, this is a bigger card, Matt, because we're going to start with the Holy Bull, 1 1/16. Lots of good horses have run in the Holy Bull over the years. This year we have Tis the Law leading the way.
Yeah, one of the top choices in a lot of people's Kentucky Derby list. Let's remind the fans, Tis the Law, son of the precocious sire Constitution from Saratoga stables of Funny Side fame, and a New York bred, and the winner of the Champagne, and was third in his most recent start as the favorite in the Kentucky Jockey Club on a slappy track. Word is he's been training lights out for the Holy Bull.
Yeah, Matt, that pretty much covers Tis the Law. I don't have anything less to say. Hey, the grandson of Tapit, the son of Constitution, looks so good winning his debut at Saratoga, and very impressive in winning the Grade 1 Champagne at Belmont Park. Now in that Kentucky Jockey Club, you mentioned the sloppy track. He was only beaten 3/4 of a length despite being third, but he was kind of in the middle of horses. He was pocketed in without a lot of running room for quite a while. He did have some time late in the stretch, and he didn't exactly explode up the rail in the slop. But I think there's enough there to forgive the effort, forgive getting beat at pretty low odds in that Kentucky Jockey Club at Churchill Downs. Heck, he's still one of the favorites for the Kentucky Derby future book here. So Tis the Law, certainly the headliner in here. You love to say Saratoga stable. It's nice to see another New York bred, another really good New York bred on the Derby Trail. And why not Barclay Tagg and Saratoga stable? Matt, there was a recent winner at Gulfstream. I guess it's been a little while now, but I thought Caro looked really good. Now in his first race, also at Gulfstream Park, he ran a good second. He was beaten by a horse who looks pretty good himself. But that 1 mile second race for Caro, when he broke his maiden, looked awfully good for trainer Gustavo Delgado.
That's for sure, Brian. Caro. It's a tough one to say with all those syllables and similar letters. Son of Uncle Mo, Gustavo Delgado does a great job down there at Gulfstream Park. It was a 6-length win, going a mile, which is one turn. But hey, coming right back on that Gulfstream Park track, certainly a horse to watch.
Yeah, I think that maiden win in his second start, Matt, was good enough to say that if Tis the Law isn't sharp in his debut now, in his 3-year-old debut. Now, Tis the Law hasn't been away for too long. Of course, he ran a couple months ago in the Kentucky Jockey Club, and as you say, is working well for trainer Barclay Tagg. But there is the advantage of sharp recent form over the track, and Caro certainly looked the part of a nice horse, both in his debut performance and then especially winning that 1 mile maiden race last time. A couple other horses I think are interesting too. Tis the Law certainly has this race on proven class, but there are enough interesting horses in the Holy Bull to think that the upset is a possibility at least. I'm not sure if I'm saying the name right, Matt. Ete Indian? Okay, we'll go with that. The Son of Summer front for Patrick Biancone. Now, he raced twice on turf. He was a first out winner last year on turf before finishing off the board in a stakes race at Keeneland on the grass. But his first race on dirt, also at Gulfstream Park, was very good. And he beat a pretty well-respected heavy favorite in that race, Toledo.
Yeah, it was a really good effort. And again, it was a 1 mile race at Gulfstream Park. Beat, like you said, a good field, including 2 horses that are on the list as probables for the Holy Bull in Toledo, who we'll talk a little bit about more coming up, and Churn and Burn.
Yeah. AT Indian looked really good in that race. He controlled the race from the outset, and if you look at his dirt form, that just that one race, another sharp win at Gulfstream Park for Tiz the Law to deal with here. Although I wouldn't forget the horse that ran second to him in that race. We mentioned Toledo. He's a son of Into Mischief from the Chad Brown barn. That those 2 factors alone make him interesting. He was a nice winner of his second start up in New York. And then he did run into some traffic well behind Ete Indian early. He was second, a good second behind Ete Indian last time. And I think improvement would be expected for the well-bred horse from the Chad Brown barn.
Yeah, I think you can certainly say that. This is a Juddmonte homebred, so you know that means that the female side is going to be very strong also. From the barn of Chad Brown. Chad Brown still seeking his first win in the Kentucky Derby. Toledo certainly is one that you have to respect in here, although I have a tendency to, when Chad Brown runners don't win their first out, I have a tendency to downgrade them a little bit.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I think both Ete Indian and Toledo are interesting horses that you can't throw out. They're both lightly raced. But to me, this is Tiz the Law's race to win or to lose. If he comes back running like he did last year, he'll be tough to beat. But on the other hand, I do really like what I saw from Caracaro, and I think he's got a big shot to pull the upset in here. Hey, Matt, and those aren't the other interesting 3-year-old colts running on this card Saturday at Gulfstream Park, because we have the 7 Furlong Swale, another race that has produced some really good horses over the years. Swale, of course, named after the ill-fated Kentucky Derby and Belmont winner, trained by Woody Stevens years ago. And Matt, one of the 2-year-olds I think we talked most about last year was a son of Hard Spun out of the Jimmy Jerkins barn. It's nice to see Green Light Go getting back to business early in 2020.
Brian Zipsy, you love this. You just love this situation because you're old school. You love that 7 Furlong prep race heading into the big races on the Kentucky Derby trail. And it's not surprising that trainer Jimmy Jerkins is taking that kind of route with Green Light Go. So much potential during the summer when he won the Saratoga Special. And it was interesting that he did that, being that he is such a big horse, and Jimmy Jerkins is careful with bringing along his young ones. So for him to win a big race that early in the summer was a feather in the cap. Second in the Champagne behind Tiz the Law, as we mentioned, and then because of that, things that we mentioned, Jerkins has given him time off to mature and grow into that big body. All reports are that he's training well, and 7 Furlongs, perfect plan.
Yeah, I like it, Matt. Perhaps I am old school. I do like the 7 Furlong beginning to a 3-year-old year to get you sharp, to get you some seasoning, and to get you a tough race before other tough races are put forth. Yeah, big, strong, powerful son of Hard Spun. He looked so good breaking his maiden at Belmont, the Saratoga Special, as you mentioned. And then I thought the Champagne didn't really set up well for him out there on a pretty contested pace, while Tiz the Law rallied easily by him in the Champagne. But I think he's better than that. Things out of the Jimmy Jerkins barn comments are nothing but really positive. Jimmy Jerkins, of course, is a little old school himself, son of the giant killer Alan Jerkins. So the positive words coming out of the Jerkins barns tells us something about the potential still of Green Light Go and I like him in this spot. I'm not even sure, though, Matt, that he'll be the favorite in the Swale. Graded stakes winner at Saratoga that we like so much. They might choose the new horse to the Cassie barn. I'm talking about a son of Kozan. His name is Untitled, and he's 1-for-1.
Did you give the horse's name, Brian?
I said Untitled, Matt.
Oh, well,
yeah, that's actually the name.
Yeah, of course.
I wasn't making a comment there.
Of course it is, Brian. An interesting name for a horse, a nondescript name like Untitled. A son of Kazan who has thrown several interesting horses on the Derby Trail. And hey, Cassie Barn, he's loaded this year heading to Kentucky. This was an 11-length winner of his maiden special weight at Gulfstream Park. And we know the Cassie methodology. He's going to run his horses, and he's going to run them to get them sharp and ready for other things. And here comes Untitled back from that big maiden win in the 7 furlong swale.
Yeah, 11th-length maiden win at 6 furlongs at Gulfstream Park in December, Matt. Kozan, you'll remember, folks, or maybe you won't remember, Kozan looked to be a horse with a world of potential, but never really got to see his racing career lived out very long. But already a sire who, as Matt said, is interesting. Untitled, 1-for-fun, looked like a really good thing in that maiden race, and I think he's going to get that a lot. Stretches from 6 to 7 and meets Green Light Go. He's got a more immediate race. He's got a win over the track. A lot of things to like about Untitled. But Green Light Go does have the experience, and I'm favoring him a little bit. Matt, it'll be interesting. We are, of course, doing the show this morning before the draws. It'll be interesting to see who trainer Ralph Nix, which son, or maybe both sons of Awesome, of course, a nice Florida-based sire. He enters in here because he's got Chivalry coming off a 3-race winning streak, and Positively Awesome, who's undefeated but hasn't run since June.
Yeah, kind of a little bit of a cool situation there with 2 horses, homebred by Jack's or Better stable from a low-profile stallion in Florida with terrific records. So, yeah, my feeling is that both of those probably won't go in here for a trainer who's fairly cautious as Ralph Nix is. But interesting duo.
Yeah, and Chivalry's been on a recent roll. He didn't start his career any great shakes, but he's won those 3 in a row, 2 stakes, all at 6 furlongs. He's been burning up the track a little bit of late this winter at Gulfstream Park. So he might be the more dangerous of the two, but Positively Awesome looked very good, positively good in his first 2 starts. But I guess that was April and June for the other son of Awesome, of course. Another horse I'm wondering is if he's going to run or not in the Swale, Matt, is Necker Island. Another son of Hard Spun, like Green Light Go. He's coming off 2 straight wins at Churchill Downs, 2 hard-fought wins, but the last one was over Silver State, who ran a really good race in the LeCompte. Matt, Green Light Go. I'm on Green Light Go. Who are you on in the Swale?
Yeah, Brian, it's hard not to like Green Light Go in here, but who knows how talented Untitled might be.
Yeah, there's always that potential of the undefeated horse, and Untitled has it in spades coming into the Swale. It'll be interesting to see just who's the favorite in that race. Yeah. Matt, I think we could be looking at some of the top horses soon on Kentucky Derby lists. If Tis the Law, for instance, or Green Light Go, or Untitled come out with a big performance. So all eyes should be on South Florida here for the Holy Bull and the Swale Saturday at Gulfstream Park. Now let's shift out about 3,000 miles west, if we will, to Southern California. We have the Robert B. Lewis. I sound like a broken record, but we've certainly seen some good horses win the Robert B. Lewis in recent years, and it looks like we have a heavy favorite. Bob Baffert is the trainer, no surprise there. Pioneer of the Nile is the sire, which, of course, makes us think about American Pharoah a little bit. 1,000 Words didn't win either of his first 2 races easily, but he was impressive doing it.
That is absolutely true. It's the Baffert juggernaut is loading up. and in the last couple months has seemed to have gotten more powerful. 1,000 Words maybe has become a little forgotten in that barn of precocious winners and powerful winners on the track thus far. But hey, 1,000 Words has not done anything wrong. Yes, the victories were over narrow margins, but one of them came in the Los Al Futurity, where he picked up 10 Derby points, and that was a narrow neck win over a very, very promising horse named Anno Dor.
Yeah, and Anno Dor was coming off a really good run in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile before that Los Al Futurity. So for 1,000 Words in his second lifetime start, Anno Dor was only making his third lifetime start, but he had that Breeders' Cup Juvenile under his belt for 1,000 Words to hold him off there and kind of spurt late and really proved to be the best in that Los Al Futurity. Was an impressive performance and rightfully put 1,000 Words up near the top of Kentucky Derby lists. Baffert Pioneer of the Nile, 2 for 2. A deserving heavy favorite, the mile 16th Robert B. Lewis, Saturday at Santa Anita Park. 2 horses we definitely expect in the race as well. I think are horses that might have more under the hood than you will see on the past performances, Matt. So I want to talk about both Tiz a Magician and Tayshawn a little bit. Tiz a Magician and Tayshawn ran against each other a few starts back. Tayshawn beat him in a maiden race. Tiz a Magician came back with a nice maiden win. Finally, the son of Tiz now for Richard Mandella in his 6th start. Looks like he's rounding into form, 4 times second. Looks like he is developing into a good horse like Tiz nows tend to do sometimes.
Yeah, and horses from Richard Mandella's barn tend to do sometimes, being that he's a careful trainer. But yeah, that maiden special weight came in the 6th try. It was by 7 lengths. So that's certainly an indication that the son of Tiz now has got room to improve.
Yeah, and it's a more recent win than 1,000 Words, of course. It came over the Santa Anita racetrack. So Tiz a Magician, despite the 1 for 6 record, almost a little bit like Omaha Beach, where he had those close races as a 2-year-old. Not as good as Omaha Beach as a 2-year-old, but looks like he is developing for trainer Richard Mandella. And Tiz a Magician, that sharp 1-mile maiden win, makes you think he can put up a good performance here in the Robert B. Lewis against the heavy favorite. Also, Tayshawn interests me, and that's because I've seen Tayshawn on the track before a couple of his races. He's a physically impressive-looking horse. He's a son of Twirling Candy. Who trains him, Matt?
Richard Baltus.
Your man, Richard Baltus.
Yes.
Now, he beat Tiz a Magician, as I mentioned, 2 starts back. But the sham, he just never really, he seemed to spin his wheels when 4th, well-beaten 4th behind another one of those Baffert juggernauts, Authentic. But I think he's better. I just, maybe I'm fooled by his looks, but I just think he's better than that effort in the sham.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Tayshawn was my pick in that race, and I certainly didn't expect him to run 4th in there. But hey, his running line and his PPs coming to this are gonna, it's not going to look particularly good because that was a defeat behind Authentic, who just blew that field away. And 1,000 Words is another good one from the Baffert barn, but I don't think he's the caliber of Authentic.
Yeah, maybe he is, and I'm not sure yet. They're both lightly raced and perfect so far, those 2 Baffert runners. This time it's 1,000 Words. Like I said, he's going to be a heavy favorite. If he wins off, he might be the Kentucky Derby favorite on Sunday morning. We'll see. Matt and I offer Tiz a Magician and Tayshawn. I don't know what else is in there, Matt, but those look like 2 interesting horses. Maybe one of them steps up and gives 1,000 Words a real run for his money. All right, let's make that big move again, back cross country, Matt. We're going to go your way. Tell our fans, the HorseCenter watchers here, will you be at the Withers on Saturday?
I will be at the Withers. Can't miss a Derby prep at my favorite track, the Big A.
I had a feeling, I didn't know for sure, but I had a feeling you would be there for the 9 furlong Withers. This race was won by Tax last year at Aqueduct. And this year, Matt, it looks like the favorite will be a Jeremiah O'Dwyer trained winner of the Remsen. So Shotsky has already done this and done that, winning the 9 furlong Remsen. Now he's back for the 9 furlong Withers.
Yeah, it seems like the case in several of these Derby preps that we have mentioned on the show, that we've got a horse in there that is a legitimate favorite. He's going to be a big favorite, but for good reasons. Shotsky got 10 Derby points. Son of Blame in coming into this race was a real bargain basement purchase. Only a $25,000 yearling. I love to hear those kind of stories. But when came into the Remsen and took that race basically on the front end all the way around, going a mile and an eighth. Seemed to have the stamina, so we know that he can handle the 9 furlongs. And as I said, is going to be a legitimate favorite.
Yeah, a legitimate favorite. A trip obviously can handle. Wasn't completely sold by the Remsen performance, but he's a son of Blame. I like Blame. Blame, of course, could get the distance. He's getting a little better with each start. And he certainly looks like the one to beat in here. Trained by Jeremiah O'Dwyer. Maybe you don't know him, but he was a assistant trainer for Al Stall when Al Stall conditioned this horse's sire, Blame, to a Breeders' Cup Classic and an Eclipse Award. So Jeremiah O'Dwyer training a son of Blame, who he spent a lot of time with. Maybe the second choice on the morning line, Matt, is Vanzi. Vanzi's trained by Michael Pino, and he was down in Parks where he ran against some good horses. He only had 1 win in 3 starts, but he ran into a couple Tigers, including Independence Hall down there. Nice win in his second race. Then he goes up to Woodbine in the rain on a synthetic surface, first time blinkers, going a distance, and it was a nice win.
Yeah, it certainly was. This is the son of Verrazano, who we know had some success in New York and at Aqueduct when he was running. Broke his maiden at Parks, where Butch Reed is stationed. Then was second in the Parks Juvenile. He had a little trouble in that race. Didn't get out of the gate well, so that second in that race is not a negative. That was a good performance in there, particularly when we saw him go up to Woodbine, change surfaces, go to a new track, go a distance of ground, and get a win.
Yeah, it seems like the distance of ground and the addition of blinkers were good for Vanzi. By the way, I love these names. Shotsky against Vanzi in the Withers here, Matt. Vanzi hasn't raced against the type that Shotsky beat in the Remsen, but definitely a horse who has a future. Son of Verrazano, as you mentioned. We don't know who's going to be in for sure, Matt. Prince of Pharaohs and Bourbon Bay, we're both not sure if they're going to be in the Withers or not, but they dead heated for second behind Independence Hall last time in the Jerome, and I thought they both ran pretty well. Prince of Pharaohs was a little bit more pressuring Independence Hall, at least at the top of the lane. The son of American Pharaohs only made 3 starts, so if he's in, I think he's an interesting horse.
Yeah, that's we got Bourbon Bay and Prince of Pharaohs, a couple of well-bred New York breds who have done good things. And as you said, they dead heated in the Jerome behind Independence Hall. And in doing so, they shared the Derby points and both picked up 3 of them. We'll see. To me, they're both kind of marginal horses in terms of being Derby contenders, but hey, you get a win in this race, and it's a whole different story. Also expected in the field for the Withers is Monday morning quarterback and Monday morning QB. So who knows how much extra money will get bet on that horse by all those football fans out there. It's another one shipping up from Parks. Won his maiden at Parks, and then went to Laurel to win the 7 furlong heft stakes. So this is one that needs to make a step up, but has done some good things. horse that I'm really interested in here with a chance to maybe be the upset winner is Portos, from the barn of Todd Pletcher. This is a son of Tappet, and really is kind of your quintessential Tappet in that he is a big horse, a horse that needs extra distance, that has needed some time to develop, and broke his maiden in his fourth try. He did that at Aqueduct. It was on a sloppy track, so we got to keep that in mind. And he won that race by 10 lengths, but they left Portos up in New York to prepare for this race. He is a horse who definitely can handle the distance and will get better with the distance. Well bred, is the daughter of Fierce Boots, who Todd Pletcher trained for Bobby Flay and was the winner of the Busanda years ago. It is Pletcher, so I'm not sure what kind of odds we're going to get on the horse, but he's going to come running at the end.
Yeah, it reminds me of a few other Pletchers trained by Tappet in recent years. Hey, if Matt Schiffman is talking them up, watch out for that one, folks. And of course, if Monday morning quarterback wins and we don't talk about him a little bit, there'll be lots of Monday morning QBs talking to us after the show. Hey, Matt, there's one more Kentucky Derby prep that maybe I'm stretching it a little bit, but there's one more Kentucky Derby prep on Saturday I want to talk about. Do you know what that is?
The Martha Washington out in Oaklawn for the fillies?
Oh, there you go, Matt. You're way ahead of me. Yes, Taraz. Taraz is in there. Taraz is quickly becoming one of the most talked about young 3-year-old fillies in the nation. She's trained by Brad Cox for Juddmonte Farm. She's a Juddmonte Farms homebred. She won impressively both at Churchill in her debut and then a big stakes win sprinting at Fairgrounds. Now she's at Oaklawn Park for the 1 mile Martha Washington, Matt. And why do I call it a Kentucky Derby prep? Brad Cox has said if she does what he thinks she will do in the Martha Washington, he's really looking at a Kentucky Derby prep next for Taraz.
Well, that would certainly make things interesting. And just to remind the fans that for a filly to get into the Kentucky Derby, they must win the Kentucky Derby qualifying points. The Kentucky Oaks points do not get you into the Derby.
Yeah, and that's something I wouldn't mind see changing at some point for the years. Maybe top qualifiers for the Kentucky Oaks can get a spot in the Kentucky Derby if that's what they want to do. Anyway, Taraz, they'd be talking about Taraz as a potential Kentucky Derby horse, the filly trained by Brad Cox. Matt, let's talk about the Pegasus just a little bit before we call it a show. Mucho Gusto, neither one of us, we blew it, folks. Neither one of us were on the favorite Mucho Gusto. Bob Baffert training. I looked at races like the what's that race out in New Mexico, the Sunland Derby and the Los Al Futurity a long time ago, even the Oklahoma Derby in his last start, and I just had the feeling Mucho Gusto wasn't quite as good as he is. Son of Macho Man who got better with age. Mucho Gusto looks like he's getting better with age because that was a big win in the Pegasus.
That certainly was a big win. It's Baffert, and I guess, we should know, Brian, that there is nobody better than getting a horse ready for a big race, giving them a little bit of time off and time to get better. And his assistant, Jimmy Barnes, they know how to push the buttons in big races. Hey, things went the right way for Mucho Gusto. I am not taking anything away from the victory when the top two choices came out of the race. But Mucho Gusto moves on to the Saudi Cup. Mucho Gusto was bought by the prince in Saudi Arabia, looking to have a horse with a big chance to win his own race, and he's got one.
Yeah, Mucho Gusto in this race, Matt, was much the best. It would have been hard for either of those scratch horses to beat him with the race he ran. I don't know, maybe Omaha Beach had his best, but Mucho Gusto ran a huge race onto the Saudi Cup, as you say, where he'll meet a much tougher field over in Saudi Arabia going for $20 million. And how about Zulu Alpha? We kind of talked about him as a horse who likes Gulfstream and one of those many horses who had a shot. But the way he shot through the rail was impressive in the Pegasus turf for trainer Michael Maker.
Yeah, and I think we probably said this. You really can never discount Michael Maker in turf races because he excels in that situation. It's been a little bit of a hard luck horse in some big races, but Tyler Gaffleone gave him a perfect trip, ground saving trip along the rail, and he came through, and everything went his way, and deserved winner of the Pegasus Turf.
And that great globe-trotting mare, Magic Wand, was second once again, Matt, becoming the Jacques Hu of modern-day racing. If you don't know who Jacques Hu is, folks, look him up for his amazing record of running second. Matt, busy show. Can I get a parting shot from you, my friend?
Busy show for sure. Lots to look forward to on the Kentucky Derby Trail. And we will stay on top of things here at HorseCenter. And as always, I want to thank our producer, Brett Workman, for putting together the show.
Thanks to our buddy, Brett. Thank you, folks, for tuning in every week. We appreciate you watching here. HorseCenter, Matt and I, it's a labor of love for us. Hey, if you haven't yet subscribed to our YouTube channel here on Horse Racing Nation, please do so now. Also, we have to thank our sponsor, the best contest site out there, Matt. That's Derby Wars. And folks, before we go, I mentioned that there was a really nice race at CM Houston on Sunday evening. Pegasus picks were not good, but thankfully I did have Lady Apple at 8-1 in the Houston Ladies Classic. It was an excellent race with Serengeti Empress, My Lady Curlin, Street Band, and all four of them had a chance to win at the 8th pole. As we trail off, let's take a look at the Houston Ladies Classic.
All in line. All set. And they're off in the Houston Ladies Classic, and Serengeti Empress right out to the front. Out for a spin. Not quick enough to keep up with that pace right now. Lady Apple's going to track in third. My Lady Curlin's going to be wide as they move into the turn. Street Band's going to be very wide. Sophie Doyle's trying to tuck in behind those leaders. And at the back, it's Saracosa. It's Serengeti Empress in control. On the front end is up by a length. No pressure yet as Out for a Spin is trying to get closer there in second. Gap of 3 back to Lady Apple. My Lady Curlin is towards the back there, and Street Band is at the back of the field with Saracosa, and they all trail Serengeti Empress. 23.40 for the opening quarter mile. Flavian Pratt and Serengeti Empress on the engine on the front end. Here comes Out for a Spin, trying to get closer, is within 3/4 of a length. Lady Apple has gotten closer, is now within 3 of the lead. My Lady Curlin is there in fourth. Street Band, tight hold for Doyle as she's moving forward as well. Saracosa at the back of the field now, 10 lengths behind. Less than a half mile to go in the Ladies Classic. Serengeti Empress has the lead. She's up by 2. Here comes Out for a Spin, who's trying to engage. My Lady Curlin is making a move and coming after the leader right now. Lady Apple, no room in fourth. Street Band's going to make a very wide move. They start to bunch up in behind that leader. They went 47.31 for the half mile. Let's look at the 3/4 time as they approach the quarter mile pole. Serengeti Empress has a race on her hands as here comes Street Band to the outside. Lady Apple to the inside. Serengeti Empress now kicks for home at the top of the stretch. Street Band down the center of the racetrack. My Lady Curlin, Lady Apple at the rail. 8th to go. 4 of them across the racetrack. Serengeti Empress, Street Band, My Lady Curlin, Lady Apple. What a race! Lady Apple to the inside, Street Band, Serengeti Empress. Lady Apple gets up. Lady is up by a neck. It's Lady Apple to get the win. Serengeti Empress for second, Street Band, and My Lady Curlin in 1 minute 44.19 seconds.